Hi, welcome back to another episode of Accept, Then Achieve. I'm so thrilled to have our guest with us today. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you. I am Lindsay. I am a registered nurse turned relationship coach, and I help individuals and couples who are just feeling stuck in their relationships, whether it is conflict or tension or feeling like roommates, whatever is coming up. I just support couples and individuals in working their way to a thriving relationship and healing unhealthy patterns and changing their patterns and experiencing all of the amazing things that they probably don't know that they can experience. And I love it so much. So I'm stoked to talk to you about relationships and all the things.
Yes, I'm so stoked to have you here too. Just um, letting the audience know, Lindsay and I met through the Center for Thriving Relationships, where we both trained to be relationship coaches. So it was just really amazing to meet so many other people on the same team love mission to spread more love and closeness and joy in the
Yeah,
world.
team
And
love.
yeah. So what inspired you specifically to speak on this particular podcast, Accept Then Achieve?
Totally. Well, I mean, the fact that we connected on Team Love in that program, and just knowing you and following you on Instagram and listening to your podcast. And when I think about, I tend to just see everything through a relationship lens. So when I think about accept, then achieve. I really just think about my own relationship growth journey and all of the journeys that we go on when we dive into relationship growth of it really requires us to look at, our unhealthy patterns and the things that we bring to our relationships that maybe aren't helpful. And only when we can look at those things with so much love and compassion and just bring them to light in the most held and beautiful way, then can we really reach the places in our relationships that we really really want to go. So I feel like, yeah, that just so aligns with your message.
Yeah, the message of this podcast is truly about unconditional acceptance first of ourselves and other people, our loved ones, especially just seeing the light and the beauty and the flaws too in everyone because we're all imperfect human beings trying our best here.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
being able to bring acceptance and compassion is, yeah, I think what we're here to learn and what it's all about. So, can you just tell us more about your work? I'm particularly curious, actually, that you help people, even when their partners are not on board in any way, to do relationship work. Like, how does that work?
Totally. Yeah, it's such a great question. And I always want to say, like, oh, it's my favorite to help individuals. But then when I think about couples, I'm like, it's my favorite to help couples. So I think it's just my help anyone in the relationship. But it it holds like a very special place in my heart to support individuals because in my own relationship, when I finally got support, it was me on my own without my partner. He didn't want to do anything to do with relationship growth at that time, and I actually joined a group coaching program with a relationship coach on my own. And I had been trying to change my partner for a long time and it had not worked at all. Um, and getting a relationship coach and having that support and that accountability to make the changes that actually create change in your relationship, I just saw massive change from my partner within like 1 week. Changes were happening. Within 3 weeks, he was asking me to see the modules I was working on when he'd shown no interest in it before. And that was because of how I was showing up.
Wow.
So that really opened my eyes to, oh my goodness, if one person fully dives in and has support in diving in, like, because I would have told you before that I'm trying everything. I'm the only one who's trying. I'm reading all the relationship books. I'm listening to the podcast. I'm doing all these things. I'm thinking about, what's underneath our conflict and all of these things. I'm trying everything. And when I worked with that coach, it was like, oh gosh, yes, I am doing things. And there is so much that I had no idea that I could do, should do, would actually change things. So just knowing that inspired me to really, open up to not just working with couples, but working with individuals. And especially because I know that like a lot of partners don't want to work on their relationships, at least to begin with. Now, side note, my partner is all in on
Hmm.
relationship growth work, which is amazing. So things can change.
Hmm.
So when I'm working with individuals, it's it's really focused on looking at ourselves and looking at, we talk about in our program that we did, when you kind of move out of a power struggle in relationships and step into the commitment stage, that really requires going, okay, I'm going to learn how to do relationships because we never learn how to do this stuff. And to do that, especially if my partner's not on board, but I mean, if your partner is on board too, you're looking at how am I contributing to what's not working? How can I change and grow? And how can I help my relationship thrive? And those are really the big areas that we focus on when we're doing that work together. Because if I sit there with an individual and we fixate on what their partner's doing and how to change their partner, we're never going to get anywhere. So instead,
Mhm.
when we like turn it towards ourselves and look at those areas, that's where the change happens. Like that's where my work is focused within those areas. And of course, that's super broad. That's like the zoom out version. But yeah, that's where we start.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I have heard that too, that if you change your steps in the dance, then your partner has to change or the other person has to change too, because it's just it's that it's the relationship. That's just the natural law of it, I guess. Although I'm curious, well, a couple questions related to that. Well, first, can you give an example of what actually moved the needle? Like, if anything comes to mind, or what's the most effective thing,
Yeah,
perhaps?
totally. Oh yeah, I got lots.
Great.
Yeah. One thing was, I'm like, I was doing all sorts of things that were not helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, what's
One of those
actually
things
helpful?
was,
Dig right in.
yeah, got it, got it. Zoom in, zoom in. When I would bring up working on our relationship, if he said no, my reaction was to pout or cry or make him out to be the bad guy or make him out to be wrong. Like I'm the only one who cares. I would totally, maybe we're sitting on the couch and I'm like, oh, I bought this book. Do you want to read it? And he would say no. And I would just go into total shutdown. So I'd be, now my complete energy has changed. I'm shutting him down. He's talking. I'm kind of mumbling answers.
Hmm.
So in turn, I'm really punishing him for his choice that
Hmm.
he has all the right in the whole entire world to make this choice. And I did this again and again and again and again and again. And of course, it's coming from this place for me of I want us to work on this together. I want us to be so much happier. I
Hmm.
want positivity and love, and I want us to really understand each other. And when I'm shaming him and blaming him for not working on our relationship, I'm just driving a wedge between the two of us. And I didn't see that. Again, I would have just told you I'm the only one who's trying because I'm the one who keeps bringing it up. And when I got my coach, that was like one of the first shifts that we made was, I did my first call. I went to my partner and I was like, do you want to look at the module that we just did? It was really cool. And he said no. And I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. And gave him a kiss, didn't let my energy change, just carried on with our night. And when I talk to individuals about this, they're kind of like, but I am upset and
Hmm.
it doesn't feel good. So I don't want to pretend that everything's okay. And the way that I looked at it is both things can be true. I can be upset that he doesn't want to do it, and I can also respect his choice and give him love and not judge him for that, not make stories about what that means, not decide that this means that he'll never be interested. I can
Hmm.
hold both things. And if I give him love and show him that that choice is okay, then, what happened was I did that over and over. And eventually he's the one asking me only 3 weeks later, can I see that module that you're talking about?
Hmm.
So that was like one of the first changes that I made was my approach just around trying to work on our relationship.
Well, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing a specific example
Yeah.
of that.
Th- Thank you for
Yeah, and
asking.
holding that dichotomy, that is so tough to really just hold such conflicting and opposite feelings. It's like, ugh, just imagining like that would matter to me too. But I think what you had said that
Totally.
stood out is like, no, not making it a story that he doesn't care. It's just about the relationship, just that just may not be his preferred way of nourishing this garden right now. And yeah, so I
Got it.
love that. I'm curious though, and if there have been clients you've worked with, or that they've done everything, that they truly, and they've worked with you and they've worked with relationship coaches, and despite all of that, their partner's not actually changing. What do you do in that case? Or has
Yeah,
that happened?
I'm trying to think if that's happened. When I'm working with individuals, they always see change because it really is that when you change your steps, the other steps change. They may not see change as quickly as they hoped for. And we really get to focus on like the small change and the small wins and blowing those up and recognizing, whoa, that's actually massive. That is a huge, huge win because that didn't used to happen before. So, I'm thinking of one individual and she started, reflecting back to her partner what he was saying and really validating him. And we were like 7 weeks into our journey together. And she came to me and she's like, he told me that my feelings make sense. And I was like,
Oh,
yes.
oh, yay.
And that can seem like the smallest thing, but it's like, oh gosh, this is your evidence that things can actually change. So I think that that would probably be the thing that I would say is that sometimes, change doesn't happen fast enough for, doesn't happen as fast as what they would want. And that can feel really discouraging. And I always kind of bring it back to, you're the one here doing the work and the change is hard for you. It's hard for you to show up with these new patterns, and you've got a coach, you know what to do, you've got the tools. So imagine your partner on the other side, their change, it's going to be slower. So yeah, I would say that I've never had anybody who hasn't changed. I also don't work with people who are in abusive or unsafe relationships. I always kind of want to highlight that as well. Um, that, yeah, I would definitely refer that out to a therapist or someone.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear that it is a universal law, at least that they will change. Yeah, unless it's abusive, narcissistic, unhealthy. Gosh, that's a bit of a tangent, but like, how do you
Yeah.
decide if or diagnose if it is like unhealthy and you need to refer out to somebody else?
Yeah. Trying to think if I've had that either. I don't know that I have had that come up. I've definitely had people, where there's some addiction that's happening and I've referred out, like I can still support them while the other person is getting support as well, or they're both getting additional support. But yeah, I don't think I'm just trying to rack my brain, but I don't think I've run into that scenario. And sometimes, like you said, like how do you sort of decide? It might take a while before that becomes apparent. Um, a while of working with someone. Yeah. Yeah. So in my experience, I would say the individuals that I've worked with, they have all seen change happen because of how they showed up. It varies in degrees. Um, and also, you got to be all in. Like when I went to my 8 week relationship group coaching program, I was like, I paid for this. I'm doing this. I am all in. I'm doing whatever he says because that's what I'm here for. So yeah, you got to go all in too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you for answering. I just was
Mhm.
curious. I was like, oh, is there something that, yeah, can help people? Because I'm sure some of the people listening here might be wondering, oh, is my relationship actually healthy or unsafe? And not just romantic, it could be anything. I mean, I know I've had a family member that, yeah, myself have struggled with, like, yeah, I don't think this is actually unhealthy. And so, yeah, just letting that go a bit more because I feel like I had tried everything with
Of
with it,
course.
but yeah, so it's tough. Yeah,
Of
relationships.
course. Yeah. And it is tough. And that's like, I always say, I love to help people in their relationships. And I'm not somebody who says, like, every relationship is meant to be. I just believe that so many people break up when there was so much more on the other side that they didn't know. And there is that point too, where, like you said, like, we all have choice. We all have, like, I'm never like, oh, you just have to tolerate this behavior. You just have to stick around for this because you're working on yourself. It's like, yeah, really gauging that and reaching out to other people and talking. Like, I've been in therapy for 20 years. I'm obsessed with therapy. It's the best.
Yes.
So I always recommend, like, if you are questioning something like that, I recommend talking to a therapist about it and sort of, yeah, exploring it in that way with a professional who knows and understands and can help you decipher that and figure that out. And beyond that, it's kind of like, there's a lot of people who do stay in abusive relationships. So a therapist can help you figure out what you truly want. Oh gosh, yeah, it's so deep, it's so layered.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I'm curious on like your own story, if you wouldn't mind sharing, because I think you had told me before at some point you and your partner almost broke up, or you had broken up even, but then you worked through it, and now you're thriving on the other side.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. When we first got together, I always share like things were perfect and amazing and wonderful. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I have found the person that I will never fight with, and everything is going to be glorious until the end of time. And for us, that lasted 2 months. And then we had our first fight, and then we
Oh.
just started fighting a lot. And we spent a year and a half just the small things would trigger us. We'd be out enjoying a day. The tiniest little thing would happen. It would look so small on the outside. One of us would get triggered. It would be a big blow up fight. We could go days without talking, or we'd try to come back to talk about the thing, get in a bigger fight. And
Mm.
this happened for a year and a half. And at that point, we did decide to break up because we'd had lots of sit downs where we're like, okay, we're going to change. We're going to do something different. And then nothing would change.
Mm.
So we just kind of said to ourselves, this must not be meant to be. And it was only in breaking up where I started to go, oh, I've been contributing to what hadn't been working. Because
Mhm.
I thought if he would just stop doing XYZ and start doing XYZ, then everything would be fine. And it took that space for me to realize, like, oh gosh, I'm part of this dance. And I haven't been looking at any of that. And he also realized the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I won't probe too much into your details unless you wanted to share a pattern or something that you
Oh,
learned to
I'm
treat differently, other than the what you shared
totally.
already.
I'm open to sharing, because I think it's helpful that, when we got back together,
Hmm.
I like tripled down on therapy. I started reading way more books, listening to way more relationship podcasts, and he still wasn't on board with, like, it wasn't the breakup that made him go, okay, like I'm interested in the relationship coaching. It was
Hmm.
like me tripling down on things, and slowly things were still changing. But of course, we got back together. We still had blow up fights,
Mm.
and we were still getting triggered by little things because those things don't just go away when you realize, maybe that you've been contributing to the problem.
Hmm.
And it really did take getting that relationship coach for things to start to change. And that's, you know, what helped break that pattern. Not only was the way that I was showing up, but then what I was learning in that program of also what we learned in our relationship program, that it's if we get stuck in the surface stuff, we stay stuck. And that's all we would do. We would fight, and then I would leave that fight. I would replay everything that he said, and then we'd come back together and talk about, well, you said this and you did this. And really, it's about that. And
Hmm.
the stuff that actually you get to heal and grow from is all underneath the deep fears, the wounds, the hurts, the unmet needs, all of those things. When we shifted to actually starting to talk about those things, that
Mm.
started to really change the conversation too for us.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's kind of like, yeah, I imagine the iceberg. It's like, you're talking about arguing back and forth about like the tips, just the content of that specific thing. And then it's like, oh, gotta address the whole rest of the iceberg underneath the surface. That's really running the show.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's a big old iceberg too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I love our framework that we learned, like
Yeah.
wonder and look under. Could you give an example? Because I love examples, and I'm sure the audience would love examples too. If something sticks.
Totally.
There you go.
Totally. Yeah. And I'll give a personal example.
Hmm.
I'm happy to share that. Yeah. Because Yeah, I'm with you. Wonder and look under is like one of my favorite concepts.
Hmm.
So, in saying that, we have like relationship poisons, quote unquote, that we use, like defensiveness or criticism or shutting down, rolling your eyes, justifying, defending, blaming, all of these things. There's a lot of them. And we all check off a whole bunch of boxes because we are human. And when we look at those things, we call them quote unquote relationship poisons. And what they truly are unhealthy strategies to get beautiful, valid needs met. So when we wonder and look under, we get to see those needs. So an example of that is, we used to go camping and my partner, I would like pack all the things and I would have the list. I would pack everything up. I would load up the car. He's sitting there sipping his coffee and I'd be like getting everything ready and I would start like huffing and I would like slam the door when I'm bringing stuff outside. And I would say things like, must be nice to sit there and drink your coffee. So I'm being passive aggressive. I'm being aggressive by slamming the door. My body language has changed. There were times when I would just outright say, like, I have to do everything around here. So I'm getting critical. I'm blaming. There's all of these things. So these are all relationship poisons, AKA unhealthy strategies to get needs met. So
Hmm.
when I wonder and look under and go, what do I really need? What I wanted was appreciation. It wasn't even, part of it was teamwork, which is another need, like teamwork, cooperation, to be in this together.
Sharing the
And the biggest
burden.
thing for me, yeah, exactly. Like we're doing this together.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing for me though was that appreciation to be seen for
Hmm.
everything that I'm doing. So when I wanted that, and now I'm using this unhealthy strategy of door slamming, rolling my eyes at him,
Hmm.
being passive aggressive, I am getting so far away from the appreciation that I actually want. I'm just getting further and further away with everything that I do. And I didn't even know in that moment that's what I wanted. I just know that I feel mad.
Hmm.
I feel bothered by this. I'm upset by this. So it really took, yeah, like getting a coach and then our program that we did as well to go, oh, like that's what's under there. There's
Hmm.
so much beautiful, that's so valid that I wanted appreciation. And then when I started to see that,
Hmm.
it helped me like open my eyes to the fact that, oh, then we get in the car. He loads up all of our surfboards. He drives for the 3 hours. He makes all of the food when we're camping. It just opened my eyes to the fact that, I'm actually happy that he sits and enjoys his coffee before he launches into the 3 hour drive where I just get to chill in the passenger seat. So just being able to look at my own stuff and then use that lens helped me see there's so much more under there. So much more. So yeah, that's kind of a little wonder and look under.
Oh, beautiful. So what do you do instead? You notice, okay, these little things, I'm not going to slam the door. I'm not going to change my energy, as you said. And I guess if you're still not feeling appreciated, then how do you try to get that need? What is the healthy way to try to get that need met? You just say, hey, babe. I mean, I don't know. You say, hey, babe, love some appreciation. Or, no, that still sounds bad.
Totally.
So,
That's so good. It's not. It's so good. And it's helpful though, for us, we had conversations about it. So I always say like it's super helpful to have conversations outside of the triggered moment.
hmm.
So if I like approach him when I'm super triggered and I go outside and I'm like, oh, I'm getting frustrated. If I go in, I'm gonna be like, can't you just appreciate me? Like it's not gonna come out right.
Yeah.
And he's gonna feel attacked and not feel good. So I recommend talking about outside of triggered moments. And for me, that looked like saying, I realize that I do this when we're packing and I'm packing and everything. I realize what I actually need under that. I would just love appreciation. I would love to hear you say,
Mm.
and I totally get to own it's not okay what I was doing. I am
Mm.
so sorry that I do that to you. And I actually really appreciate how much you do with the driving and the cooking and all of the things that you do when we're there. So it creates this safety around this conversation of I'm owning my stuff. I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying I just wanted to be appreciated, so it's okay that I did those things.
Mhm.
Owning my stuff and I'm expressing my needs in a healthy way and really painting that dream of, I'm not just saying I would like appreciation. I'm saying I would love to hear you say thank you. That sets him up for success. Like I know
Mm.
exactly what she needs.
Mm.
So it really sets him up. And then we also ended up from there. I think it might have been suggested by my relationship coach that we had a conversation of when we feel like we want appreciation, it's cool in our relationship if we just point out what we did, and that's going to be our prompt for the other person to go, I really appreciate that. So if he gets home from work and I'm like, I cleaned the whole house today, I did 3 loads of laundry, then he'll be like, thank you so much. I appreciate that. When, if we hadn't had that conversation, it might feel like I'm like, I did all of this and you
Yeah.
didn't do anything. You've just been at work all day. So it's really about having those safe conversations outside of the triggered moments, if that's helpful.
Hmm. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I feel like there's, as you said, like a right way, wrong way. Not quite right way, wrong, but like things coming out in a safe way, in an inviting way, rather than, yeah, just escalating it. Like in a sort of like de-escalating, diffusing way of just sharing our need or what we're hoping for. And a lot of times it's just very easy for the other person to be like, yeah, just to say thank you or just to acknowledge, and rather than it turn into this whole big thing. And I love that too. I think that's part of the our relationship breakthrough process, like just turning it around even and seeing like, oh wow, here are all the things that I can appreciate about him for what he's done for
Yes.
this trip too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I love the breakthrough
Beautiful.
process. It's so good.
Mhm. Yes.
It's
So
so good.
good. So,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. And I love what you said too, that it can be so easy because our partner might think she's mad, so she wants me to get up and do all this when I know I have to drive and I just want to relax and have my coffee now. She's going to get to look at her phone in the car or like whatever that thing is. Maybe I just want to like do my things on my phone now. So our partner might think it's going to be this huge thing that they have to do or this big change that they have to make. And so often, like working with couples, it's, oh gosh, it's just like this little, yeah, it would be really helpful if you did this tiny little thing. And most of the time, the partner's like, oh, absolutely, I can do that. So yeah, I love that you pointed that out.
Yeah, and also what you said about setting them up for success, like very specific requests. And yeah, instead of just like, I would have liked this, but I don't know how I'd want you to try to give it to me, like it's just, yeah, really the more specific and clear we can be, just the easier time it'll be for everybody.
100%.
Yeah, shifting gears a little bit, I mean, can I ask how your career change happened? Like quitting nursing? Are you still doing any nursing? Like, what was that like? Because, we have that in common. We both left. I was a doctor, you were a nurse.
Yes.
We both left the hospital because we were like, "Oh, this isn't really actually helping people."
Yeah, this isn't where my heart is. Absolutely. It's it's like there's so many feelings tied to it. I love nursing because I love helping people. So I love that piece of it. And when I started my relationship coaching business, I went casual, which means I can just pick up shifts here and there. Like I went from full time to casual, where I can just kind of set my own schedule, and that helped me with my business. And then I still pick up shifts here and there now, so I'm not totally out of it. And that would be the future goal. Um, and yeah, because gosh, of course it's hard. You're leaving a safe and secure job that, like I've got a pension, I've got security, I could work every single day if I wanted to because we are so short of nurses, and stepping into this thing that is full of uncertainty. Because I knew I wanted to be a relationship coach, but I have said many times in my life, I would never be an entrepreneur. I would never want to have my
Hmm.
own business. So I've said that over and over and over. And when I, yeah, was becoming a relationship coach, it just, I think I was just putting that part aside of like, oh, right, I have to have a business
Yeah, yeah,
to do
same.
this
I
part that
relate
I
to
said I
that.
would never want to do. Do you?
Yes, yes. I'm
I'm
just
like,
like,
did
no.
I just ignore that part? What did I do?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm glad.
that's a really, really tough part. I mean, well, it's a good
I'm
thing that
glad.
we,
Because it almost feels silly to say, like, of course I have to start a business, but
yeah, yeah, I know. Well, actually, I was going to say it's a good thing that we're affiliated with where we trained, that the Center for Thriving Relationship puts us on their directory, and that helps. But I do wish, yeah, that there was more support, like, oh, hey, they assign us people the same way that we were assigned patients before. But that's part of the journey, though, too, in like
of
finding
course,
our
yeah.
people with
Yeah, when
our
I just get to
particular
be a
style.
relationship coach.
Yeah, yeah. entrepreneurship. I feel like
That is
entrepreneurship,
so true. I love that you said that.
thanks. Yeah, it's just like that's just
What
a
were you gonna
form
say?
of personal growth. One of the hardest things and most biggest ways we can advance ourselves is to build this totally custom dream business or dream practice or whatever it is that's just the most unique expression of ourselves possible. So, oh, I feel you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. No, I so agree. I had no idea what it would bring up. And it, yeah, helps us work through all sorts of things when we
Mhm.
put ourselves out there in this way.
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of along that vein, like, what are your biggest challenges still? And then, what are the ways you nourish yourself and remind yourself that you are enough?
Yeah, I love that question. And again, just always thinking, through a relationship lens, because that is just, I can't take it off. Um, so I just think, of course, I still have unhealthy patterns that come up. My partner and I consider that we have a thriving relationship and we still have conflict because conflict is normal. And sometimes we do get like triggered in really big ways like we used to. Of course, it used to be daily, and now it's not at all daily. And in those moments, those are great opportunities to take care of myself and nourish myself because, you know, yeah, just vulnerably sharing, we could get in a fight and I could be so triggered and my nervous system's dysregulated. And I'm telling myself this story is like, what am I doing as a relationship coach? How can I help
Hmm.
other people when we just got in a fight or we just got in an argument? And now, we haven't repaired yet. That didn't really feel very good. And all of those things come up. And yeah, I would say over the last couple of years, just nervous system work has become so vital and so important in my life. So I regularly meditate and listen to hypnotherapy. I've been seeing a hypnotherapist for almost 20 years as well. So, when I really need an extra little tune up, I go and see her. And bilateral tapping is one of my favorite nervous system techniques in the whole wide world. So I love
Hmm.
that so much. And even just, I share after arguments with my partner if I'm feeling triggered and we haven't repaired yet. So often we get in a little bit of a conflict and we've immediately repaired and we're fine within minutes. And
Hmm.
there are those arguments where it's like, okay, maybe like we're gonna like go in different rooms and just regulate ourselves because our nervous systems are dysregulated and we're not connected when that happens. So what I do is, I go and I feel the feelings. I don't try to not feel those. I just feel them. If that's crying, if that's running through all the stories in my head, if that's getting really upset, whatever that is. And when that feels sort of complete, I lean right into that bilateral tapping. I say calming mantras over and over and over. I always use I am safe, I am loved, I am fine. And that's just what I'm saying to all the little me's in there and to my
Hmm.
nervous system because I know that I know, I just feel them so much. It's
Yes.
like I get to take care of you in this moment. And I know that when I am regulated, I'm going to see everything through a different lens. And I'm going to be able to use wonder and look under and get really curious about what went on for my partner and what my needs were in that situation. So, yeah, for nourishing myself, that's a really, really big thing. And then, of course, doing it regularly so that when I really need it, it's way more accessible and it's more of a routine. It's not something I'm trying to figure out how to do on the spot. And that's taken a long time to get to a place where it feels like a more regular practice now.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing. I love bilateral tapping too. It's so important. And yeah, I guess like you shared so much. We only have a few minutes left. Is there any like
Yeah.
last thoughts or advice or a practical tool or something that you want to leave the audience with? And also, how can we find you and your work?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for chatting. This has been fun.
Thank you,
Thank you
it did. The
so
time
much.
passed so quickly. We should do a part two sometime.
So quickly. Yeah. I could talk about it all day. Don't
Me
don't get
too.
me
Me too.
started here. Okay. Yeah. Regular installments. Um, I think, oh, what would I leave? I think that wonder and look under, just like we talked about, it is such a huge, important concept in our relationships. So again, that is when you're struggling in your relationship, whether that's you've been stuck in fights for months and months and months and months and months or years, or you're feeling like roommates in your relationship, the way out of that is to step into that personal responsibility like we talked about. You're not taking responsibility for everything, but it's like I'm stepping into how am I contributing to what's not working? How can I change and grow? And how can I help this relationship thrive? And when we're thinking about how I'm contributing to what's not working, that's the place where we want to look at it with so much love. So when I look at that and go, oh gosh, I'm doing that by getting really defensive. So, that's one of my longtime unhealthy patterns. I
Mhm.
bring that to our relationship. And when I say that, I want to meet that and go, oh gosh, that probably served little Lindsay so well at one point in her life and was such a brilliant strategy because all of these things usually are.
Mm.
And recognizing again, we're all human. And then we get to use that wonder and look under piece and go, when I'm defensive, what do I actually need? And for me, it's to be seen for my best intentions. I
Mm.
want to know that I'm loved and that I'm okay. Like that's what's under there. And then it comes out in this defensiveness. So my partner has no idea that's what I want. So,
Mhm.
so we just get to look at those things with so much love. So I think wonder and look under really is like, it's a real takeaway, take home piece for me. Just getting curious, what do I need? And you can Google like human needs
Mhm.
and just look up. Like if you get critical, shut down, get defensive, just think, okay, I do this, look at this list of needs, and you could just point them out. And even, you getting familiar with them is really important because your partner's definitely not going to know what you need if you don't even know what you need. So
Mm.
this is where we get to like jump into our own growth that can really support the entire relationship.
Mm. Absolutely. I love that. It's just going deeper because it's
Mhm.
never the full story to just stay at that level of the relationship poison. It's like there's
Yeah.
something underneath driving that. Oh, yeah. I love that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That
something easily
iceberg.
accessible to everyone. Yes, yes. Always remember the iceberg.
Yeah,
Remember the iceberg. Love that. Um,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing. How can people connect
Oh,
with
right. And
you and
then,
find you?
yeah, totally. I am on Instagram at loving.with.intention. And you can also hang out with me on YouTube, and that's Loving with Intention. So you can come hang out there.
Awesome. And I'll leave your links too with the show notes. Thank you. I actually love the dots. Was that intentional? Loving dot with dot intention. It's like extra intentional.
Someone else had Loving with Intention, but I like your
My
I like your
interpretation.
perception of it, so we're gonna go with that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
So intentional.
so intentional. You needed the dots there. Oh, perfect. Oh my gosh.
That will be the story from here on out.
Yes, sounds great. Oh my gosh. Well, it was such a pleasure
So
having
good.
you on the show today, Lindsay. And yeah, would
Thank
be
you.
would be happy to have a part two with you and based on any audience specific topics or requests. Would be great to continue the conversation
Totally.
other time. Have
I'm
a great
here for
one.
it. I'm here for it. Thank you so, so much. Bye.
Bye.